I remember that night in Seoul as vividly as if it were carved into my heart. It was during the HI Story World Tour, and the air felt electric, almost alive, pulsing with the energy of thousands of people who had come to share a moment with me. When I stepped onto the stage and the first notes of Earth Song echoed through the stadium, I felt that familiar mixture of emotion and responsibility wash over me, the weight of the performance, the message, the hope that the song might touch someone out there. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. As the crane began to lift me high above the crowd into that space where light and music meet the night sky, I suddenly felt movement that didn't belong. I turned and saw a fan climbing up the crane toward me. He looked terrified, desperate, shaking as the wind hit us both. Security hadn't reached him. In that split second, I realized he could fall from that height. I didn't think of the show, the cameras, or the choreography. I thought only of him. Instinctively, I reached out, wrapped my arm around him, and held him close. I could feel his heart pounding through his clothes, and above all the cheering, I could hear his breath hitch with panic. I told him quietly, "It's okay. I've got you," even though the music was blasting and the whole world seemed to be in motion. I tightened my arm around him as the crane rose even higher, and I kept him close to me so he wouldn't slip. I had been trained all my life to keep performing no matter what, but in that moment my mind wasn't on the show. It was on the human being trembling beside me, someone who could lose his life if I let go. And so I held him, sang the words, and prayed silently that the crane would lower soon. When it finally came back down, security stepped in, and the fan was taken safely away. Only then did I allow myself a breath of relief. People later told the story like it was another Michael Jackson moment, but to me it wasn't about theatrics or spectacle. It was about seeing someone in danger and doing what any decent person would do, protect them. You know, people sometimes forget that beneath the lights and costumes, I'm just a person. And I've always tried to see other people the same way, beyond the crowd, beyond the noise. That wasn't the only time something like that happened. Once, in London during the dangerous era, a young man climbed onto a ledge across from my hotel. Police were trying to talk him down, but he kept asking for me. I didn't know the situation was so serious until someone came running into my room to tell me. I went out onto the balcony and waved. I didn't say much. I just tried to be calm, to move gently, to show him he wasn't alone. Eventually he stepped back to safety. I never forgot that. People think fame separates you from the world, but moments like those remind you just how connected you really are, how deeply your life touches other lives, sometimes in ways you don't even realize. Over the years, I heard stories from fans that moved me just as much. There was Christine, a beautiful soul in Dublin. She had a rare condition and was in a wheelchair, and during Heal the World, security brought her up onto the stage. I held her hand and told her I loved her. I meant it. To me, she wasn't just part of the crowd. She was a person fighting her own battles, showing unimaginable courage. Later, she said the warmth in that moment helped her feel something in her arm again. I never forgot that either. And then there was Joseph, who broke his leg after getting caught in the rush of fans chasing my van. When I heard about it, I made sure he came to the show and met me backstage. I didn't want him to feel forgotten or hurt because of his love for me. Those gestures weren't acts of charity. They were acts of humanity. They were simply what my heart told me to do. People have always seen me on stage as this larger-than-life figure, but I never felt larger than life. I felt responsible, yes, and deeply connected to the people who came to see me. I felt their emotion, their love, their pain. I always believed that if someone reached out to you, whether in fear, in joy, or in desperation, you reach back. When that fan climbed onto the crane in Seoul, he wasn't trying to cause chaos. He was overwhelmed, swept up in a moment bigger than himself, and I understood that. I've lived my whole life inside moments bigger than myself. Maybe that's why I could feel what he felt. Maybe that's why my arms moved before my mind even had time to think. After the concert that night, when everything had quieted down, I went back to my room and sat for a long time. The world sees the showmanship, but I think about the stories behind the faces, the letters people send, the lives they share with me, the way they look at me for comfort or strength. It can be overwhelming, but it's also a gift, one I don't take lightly. I've always believed that love is the most powerful thing we have. It's what moves us, heals us, saves us. And in moments like that night in Seoul, love is what guided me. Some stories about me live in headlines, but the ones that matter most live quietly in the hearts of the people who were there. I know some of these stories sound unbelievable or magical, but to me, they were simply moments of connection. Moments where I felt like I wasn't performing, but just being who I truly am. And maybe that's why those memories stay with me, long after the lights fade and the music stops. Because behind every concert, every stage, every song, there's a world of emotion, mine and theirs, intertwined in ways no one can ever fully understand. When people ask me about the greatest moments in my career, they expect me to talk about awards or record sales or the biggest shows. But the truth is, the moments that meant the most weren't the loud ones. They were the quiet ones, the hand I held, the hug I received, the life I reached just in time, and yes, the night I held a fan on a crane high above the world, my arm around him, praying silently that we would both make it back to the ground. That night reminded me why I do what I do, and who I do it for.